Hey, good morning, my friend. How are you? Good, I hope. I had a nice weekend, and I trust you did too. Although I have to tell you, it's been over 100 degrees here for over 2 weeks, and this is abnormally high for us. So if you're experiencing the heat like we are, I hope you get some break in that. Now, again, this series is about effectiveness. It is the effectiveness model. I started out talking about vision and the importance of having a compelling and inspiring vision for yourself and for those around you. Number one. Number two, we talked about mission and the importance of mission as it lends itself to the vision. This is very interesting how this model works because everything seems to layer one right on top of each other. And that's why we call these foundations. The next was values. And I hope that was very informative, eye-opening. Values are huge. We have no idea how much of our lives is controlled by values or those beliefs that we have in our head. And we have to be cognizant enough to ask ourselves, are those really my values? Or did I get those from, my parents or my friends or social media? So that's very important, right? And then last week, I hinted that this week I would be talking about roles and the importance of roles. Now, I'm just going to run this by you. Whether it is in your work life or in your personal life, we play different roles. At work, it could be supervisor, leader, coach, mentor, and the list goes on. And in our personal life, it could be a friend, a father, a parent, a sibling, right? And so many others. And so many others, husband, wife, you name it. There's a myriad of them. But we need to do an inventory and capture the different roles that we play and ask ourselves, how are we going to be the best that we can be in those roles? What can we do? What do those people, because roles always serve others. Isn't that interesting? The roles are not about self-serving. They're about serving others. So we have to ask ourselves, well, what do these people need? And you know what? You even have permission to go and ask them, what do you need from me? That starts a very interesting conversation, doesn't it? You may be, you may want to be careful about who you ask. Sorry, I had to take a sip of my high octane go juice. Now, during Monday Morning Cup of Joe, I'm going to give you some of the issues that arise when we suffer from what we call role ambiguity, not being clear on the roles that we play, or even understanding if we're playing any roles, being oblivious to the roles that we are in that from other people's perspective see us and we may not see ourselves. So let's get started. So here we go. Challenges that we face when dealing with role ambiguity. Now, the first one I want to talk about is the confusion and inefficiency that people being unclear about their role causes. They think, is this my area of responsibility? Do I own this? And the time spent trying to figure that out. Now, absolutely, they could go to their leader and ask if the leader is approachable. If not, then what do? They figure it out, which is very inefficient. And oftentimes they duplicate efforts, which is continuing that inefficiency. And an element that's very important to roles is, if I'm responsible and or accountable, do I have the authority? There's nothing more disempowering than having responsibility for something, but not having the authority to carry it out. So that's something to think about if you're a leader. The next is conflict and tension. Oftentimes, if we're duplicating efforts, we may be stepping on the toes of our teammates, and this can cause a great deal of conflict and tension among the team. So when you're experiencing as a team leader, when you're seeing this level of conflict and tension, drill down, have conversations with your people and ask them, what happened? Oh, this is my area. No, it's my area of responsibility. And then you say, look, guys, this is my fault. I'm responsible for giving you clarity around your role, your responsibilities, your accountabilities, giving you adequate authority to carry those out and making sure that they're clear. So this is a two-way conversation. And as a leader, we need to be very, very aware of this type of dynamic because it happens so frequently. I see it in a lot of companies that I do work with. The next is a reduction in productivity. And this is kind of a natural inclination. When people don't know what they're responsible for or accountable for, they're going to bump their heads against the walls. They're not going to be productive. And, this is almost like an insight into quiet quitting is where people will go, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm just going to look busy and see if anybody notices that, things aren't getting done. Now, serious things will show up. And then that will be the opportunity for you as the leader to create clarity around, who's responsible for what. But you don't want to get into it that way. You want to be proactive, right? That's very reactive, and it's going to take a lot of your time. So in order to save your own time, it's very important that we have clear roles and responsibilities for everybody from the get-go. Something that you need to do if you're forming a team that you need to do early on as a part of the team's development so that everybody's on the same page. And then poor decision making is another thing that can come out of this. When people don't know what they're responsible for, they don't know that they have permission to, make a decision. Here we go. Permission equates to authority. And oftentimes people are not clear on what level of authority that they have. And if they are unassertive people, they're going to either make bad decisions or they're going to avoid making the decision altogether, which in of itself, right, is a decision and not a good one. So that's another element that works against us when we have role ambiguity. The next one is low morale. Clearly, when people don't know what they're going to be held responsible for and they don't understand their part, their role on the team, they're going to feel undervalued. And individual morale is going to drop, and team morale as a result will drop. And oftentimes when I see this as a team coach and facilitator is apathy. People get to the point where like, they didn't care enough to tell me what I'm supposed to be responsible for. So why should I care? I see it a lot. So please be also very aware of that dynamic as a result of role ambiguity. Then there's a lack of accountability. Do you have problems within your organization of holding people accountable? Or it's even difficult to hold anyone accountable simply because we haven't clarified who's responsible for what. Responsibility is accountability. And in some cases where I've heard, well, we're all responsible for that. Well, you know what? When we're all responsible for something, no one person is accountable. You've got to define a place where the buck stops here. And if you don't, then what happens, and I've seen it a million times, is we resort to the blame game. Now, my area, that's Carol's, that's Joe's. We reflect off of ourselves, taking accountability for something. So again, establishing those roles and responsibilities up front are critical to having an effective team. And then the next one is a result of all this chaos that happens is it increases micromanagement. Look, the supervisor or the leader may be well-intended in wanting to help their people, but they're creating, role clarity piecemeal, and it's reactive. And how does that reflect on the leader? This guy doesn't know what he's doing. Oh my gosh. We have no idea what we're doing. And then all of a sudden you get this, mayhem among the team of, well, what are we all about? What's going on? So very, very important that if you see micromanagement, drill down and find out what specifically is causing that, because oftentimes it can be a result of role ambiguity. And then we've got, well, with all this chaos ensuing and people, bouncing off the walls, not knowing, what direction they're supposed to be going in. And oftentimes I see teams where, people are going off in different directions. The team is not unified, it's not moving in the same direction. And then you don't feel progress. And then as a team, when you don't feel progress and you feel stagnated, yeah, you quiet quit, right? And this can also result in burnout. We talk about, work burnout all the time. Oftentimes, burnout is a result of mental, psychological, and emotional trauma. After repeatedly trying to get something accomplished, but you don't have clarity around your responsibility, nor do you believe you have the authority to take action. Do you see what a mess this can cause? So roles are extremely important for individuals and for teams and organizations and families. Ultimately, this causes communication breakdown. Role ambiguity can lead to miscommunication gaps. It can deteriorate trust and collaboration. You can see that. Oftentimes, being my background being organizational psychology, and I'm a team specialist. When I see this dynamic, I go back to the effectiveness model and say, hey, is there a vision? Is it compelling? Is there a mission? Does it give people the general direction in which to move? And then do they have values, and are they practicing those values? And then now roles. Are people clear on the roles that they have? And are there ultimate accountability among the team members? Ultimately, when these things are not hitting on all cylinders, we upset our internal customers, people whom we provide work to. The quality of that work drops. Our internal customers are not happy. And then ultimately, the external customer is the one who suffers. So we need to be aware of the importance of role clarity and making sure that everyone has the proper level of authority so that they feel confident to make good decisions, be collaborative with their teammates, and make progress in the right direction. So that's going to wrap up roles for Monday Morning Cup of Joe. Now, on Wednesday, on After the Coffee, I'm going to share with you some more insights and the benefits of role clarification. I know it sounds like a dry subject, but if you have a team, a family, and things are not hitting on all cylinders, this is a good diagnostic to use to get on the right path. So until Wednesday, my friend, lead well and take control of your future.